Well, greetings, everyone, from Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. I'm Zach Ewing, and this is the Saints Insider Postgame Show. Here at the stadium, we heard some chants of "Who Dat" ringing through as fans filed out, mostly just Saints fans left at the end. And yes, of course, that means good news for New Orleans. They beat the Colts 38-27, back in the win column, back to 500, 4-4. It wasn't always easy. It wasn't always pretty, but the Saints do get the job done. And they get the job done, as it turned out, in pretty comfortable fashion, winning by 11 points, putting up more than 500 yards of offense, and, as we said, getting back to the 500 mark before they head back home next week to face the Chicago Bears. So we will talk about that and much more, some stats, some scoring plays, and taking your questions and comments as we go through here. And then in a little while, we will be joined by Luke Johnson and Jeff Duncan as they emerge from the Saints locker room here in Indianapolis. So again, your final score, Saints 38, Colts 27. I want to remind you that this season's post-game coverage is brought to you by Tulane Doctors. When it comes to healthcare, choose a partner that sets the standard. Tulane Doctors are bringing the medicine of tomorrow to the Gulf South today. Find your physician at TulaneDoctors.com. And the Saints, look, this is as good as the offense looked all year, because not only did the Saints put up 511 yards of offense, their third straight game with over 400 yards, but all the complaints the last couple of weeks that they couldn't finish, that they couldn't get the big third downs, that they couldn't, all those were empty yards because they weren't getting the big plays when they needed them. Well, can't complain about that today. The Saints were 3 of 4 in the red zone, and the only time they did not score a touchdown in the red zone was at the end of the game when they got a couple of first downs that they needed to run out the clock and eventually kick a field goal to win this game by 2 scores. And, of course, maybe the biggest play of the game, Derek Carr to Rashid Shaheed, 51 yards on 3rd and 13 to get the Saints into scoring territory, keep the clock running, really pretty much just end this game with a gutsy call, a gutsy throw, and a great catch by Rashid Shaheed on that 3rd and 13 play when it looked like the Colts were going to get the ball back with a chance to tie this game. They did have one chance to tie the game with a touchdown and 2-point conversion earlier in the fourth quarter. That was snuffed out. So all is well today in Saints land. And we do have some breaking news from around the league. Producer Zoe just let me know Kirk Cousins has torn his Achilles. And so, listen, the Saints play the Minnesota Vikings in a couple of weeks. They continue to draw teams without their starting quarterbacks. And look, it's the NFL. You don't complain about the breaks you get. The Saints have gotten some breaks. They've given some away. They take advantage today. Anthony Richardson out for the Colts, of course, and Gardner Minshew was the starting quarterback. And for a while, looked like it wasn't going to matter. The Colts got out to a 17-7 lead. Gardner Minshew threw a touchdown pass to Michael Pittman. Zach Moss ran for a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor had a long run. Everything was really working well for the Colts early. Derek Carr fumbled. He was hit by a couple of guys. Offensive line failed on that play. Carr fumbles. Colts turned that into a touchdown. It's 17-7, and that was the 3rd straight week the New Orleans Saints were down by double digits in the first half. Same thing happened against the Houston Texans. Same thing happened against the Jacksonville Jaguars on Thursday night a week ago, and it happened again here. So that's certainly one cause for concern that remains, the Saints digging themselves holes. But unlike the past 2 games today, they were able to fight their way out of that hole and then some. They outscored the the Colts at one point. They outscored them 28-3. Take that, Falcons fans, and made the score 35-20 going into sort of the end game scenario. The Colts did get one touchdown back. Gardner Minshew finding Drew Ogletree, who made a diving catch in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. Phenomenal play. Minshew rolls out. He's under pressure, throws into double coverage. Ogletree makes the diving catch. Not a lot you can do about that if you're the Saints defense. And so the Colts did get back within a touchdown and a 2-point conversion on that play. But as I said, the Saints able to put things away from that point with the field goal drive. So Saints Insider Postgame Show. I'm Zach Ewing. We'll be joined later by Luke Johnson and Jeff Duncan, who are here with me in Indy. And we'll have all the reaction from the Saints locker room. We'll take your questions and comments, so go ahead and leave them, whether you're on Facebook or on the YouTube channel. And we'd encourage you, speaking of that, to subscribe to the Saints on NOLA.com YouTube channel. We're up over 15,000, I believe. So go ahead and get that done. And, join us. We have Saints Insider shows coming Wednesday and Friday, and we'll continue to talk about this team. But today the Saints win at 38-27. Derek Carr, 310 yards passing, his third straight game over 300 yards. Taysom Hill had 44 yards passing and 68 yards rushing. He ran for 2 touchdowns. The 44 yards passing, by the way, came on a deep ball to Rashid Shaheed that was ruled an interception initially. Shaheed kind of caught the ball, and then it was torn away from him by the safety as they rolled over on the ground. And this is when the game was 28-20 Saints, so still very much in doubt. They reviewed that play, gave the catch to Shaheed, gave the Saints a first down in the red zone. They cashed that in on a Taysom Hill run a few plays later. It's 35-20, and the Saints are in control. So, again, not perfect, but certainly much better, and exactly what the Saints needed. So let's take a quick break here on the Saints Insider Postgame Show. We'll be back with much more. We're brought to you by Tulane Doctors. Be back with more of a scoring recap, your comments and questions, and Luke Johnson and Jeff Duncan from the locker room right after this, live from Lucas Oil Stadium.
We are Tulane Doctors. Physicians and scientists working side by side to advance academic medicine. We give our community access to the best possible medical remedies, developing state-of-the-art treatments to improve quality of life, address public health crises, and cure disease. All in passionate pursuit of our mission to provide inspired patient care for generations to come. Tulane Doctors. The future of medicine is here.
The Times-Picayune always gets it right. Jay's on top.
Not quite. It says here the Crusaders are the best.
I think you mean the Greenies, buddy.
These sports writers know what's up.
At least you're wearing the right colors, but we know why people read the paper. The one thing we can all agree on, we trust the Times-Picayune.
Subscribe today. Read it today. Trust it today. The Times-Picayune.
You're never gonna make the front page wearing that.
Welcome back to the Saints Insider Postgame Show, live from Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. I'm Zach Ewing, here on the field after the Saints defeat the Colts 38-27, improved to 4-4. Got a lot of your comments on the screen here. We have one about the offense is better without Chris Olave. Chris Olave dropped a pass today that no NFL receiver should ever drop. It was a beautifully designed play, a beautiful throw by Derek Carr right in his hands, and he let him bounce off. I know Deuce McAllister on Twitter said he thinks Olave lost that ball in the lights. We'll see if either Luke or Jeff is able to talk to Olave and find out today. But that's certainly possible. There are some bright lights in the corners of this stadium. Still a play that Olave, I'm sure, will tell you himself he should have made. Look, are the Saints better without Chris Olave? Maybe it's possible they were today. He didn't have his best game. I think it's ludicrous to say that long-term this offense is better without Chris Olave. They need him to get going if they're going to finish this season the way they want to finish it, quite frankly. We have another comment saying, hey, can I blame Carr today? Derek Carr played very well today. Derek Carr was not perfect today. I do not blame the fumble on him. As the commenter says here, he had very little time to throw the ball on that play. That was an offensive line issue more than anything else. But, Derek probably played his best game of the season today. 310 yards, 2 touchdowns. Should have been 3 touchdowns. Of course, the Olave drop, that would have been a touchdown as well. And then just a super clutch throw to Rashid Shaheed on that 3rd and 13 play to really seal this game. So, no, look, the quarterback is always going to get a huge share of the blame when the team loses, especially when the offense is as bad as the Saints offense has looked at times this year. But he is going to get the lion's share of the credit when the team wins and the offense looks good. And that's what we had today. I'm just going to repeat that. The Saints had 511 yards of offense today. Derek Carr had 310. Taysom Hill had 44 passing. And they ran for over 150 yards. Alvin Kamara had a good day. Taysom Hill had a good day rushing. Even Jamal Williams got in on the act. Just Super, super productive day. One stat we don't have up there, Rashid Shaheed, 3 catches, just 3, for 153 yards. If you can't do the math, that's 51 yards a catch, averaging 51. That's some Tecmo Super Bowl stuff right there. So a huge game for Shaheed as well. And, outside of that one play, the protection gets screwed up, the offensive line fails, and Carr fumbles. I mean, outside of that one play, and then I guess you could throw the Olave drop in there, but this offense was really, really good all day. Colts defense, certainly not the best in the league. We knew the Saints would have to score some points to win today, but look, credit where credit is due. They did it. They scored 38 points, could have had more, and really just dominated today. So another comment, can they keep it up against the Bears? Well, Saints will be favored against the Chicago Bears next week. I can say that pretty firmly. I think I saw the early line had them as 5.5-point favorites. We'll have to see. The Bears play Sunday Night Football tonight out in LA against the Chargers. Tyson Bagent is starting at quarterback for the Bears instead of Justin Fields. I guess there's a chance Fields could be back next week. That could affect that betting line. But yeah, either way, the Saints are going to be significant favorites next week, 4 or 5-point favorites, maybe 6-point favorites. And that's a game they should expect to win. Look, the Saints should expect to win that game. They should expect to be 5-4 going to Minnesota. And Kirk Cousins, Adam Schefter reporting he's done for the season, torn Achilles. Justin Jefferson also on IR. He is eligible to return in that game against the Saints in Week 10. But are the Vikings going to rush him back if Kirk Cousins is hurt, if it feels like their season is going nowhere? I don't know. So you could be facing a Vikings team without Kirk Cousins or Justin Jefferson. And the Saints have their bye after that. Is 6-4 out of the question? Certainly not. Certainly not. That game in Minnesota will be tougher. But as we said on the Saints Insider shows this week, it comes down to the Saints have to fix the Saints. And for Week 8, we saw them fix the Saints. The offense was great, 511 yards, 3 out of 4 in the red zone. The one time they didn't score in the red zone was at the end of the game when they weren't trying to. The defense, again, kind of a rough first half. Let the Colts jump out to a 17-7 lead. One of those Colts touchdowns came on the short field after the fumble, but defense wasn't great in the first half. But they really picked it up, I thought, and only allowed the Colts 1 touchdown in the second half. And as I mentioned, that was on a pretty ridiculous play. Gardner Minshew rolling out and finding Drew Ogletree in the back of the end zone for a diving catch. Not something that the offense is going to be able to replicate very easily at all. So a 38-27 final for the New Orleans Saints. They are 4-4. See what else we got. Michael Pittman opened the scoring, a 10-yard touchdown catch from Gardner Minshew. That was with 6:56 left in the first quarter. Saints answered quickly. Alvin Kamara, an 18-yard pass from Derek Carr. Kind of a little stick option route where Kamara goes he can go outside or inside. He goes inside. Carr hits him. And Kamara, just one of these ridiculous Alvin Kamara plays where he keeps his balance even while being hit, somehow defies gravity, stays parallel to the ground, and dives into the end zone. And so that made it 7-7. That was the score at the end of a quarter. Matt Gay hit a 20-yard field goal for the Colts on one of the first plays of the second quarter, made it 10-7. And after the Carr fumble, Zach Moss cashed that in for the Colts with a 1-yard touchdown run, 17-7 Colts. But the Saints answered pretty quickly. They answered on the very next drive. Taysom Hill ran it in from 20 yards out to cut the lead to 17-14. Defense gets a stop. Offense gets the ball back. And that was a Derek Carr to Rashid Shaheed 58-yard bomb. Beautiful throw. Shaheed burned the coverage. Throw hits him in stride. As easy of a 58-yard touchdown pass as you'll ever see in the NFL. And just like that, the Saints were up 21-17. That was their first lead since we were in Foxborough, and they beat the Patriots 34-0. They did not lead a single second against either the Houston Texans or the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Saints have a lead. Matt Gay did hit a field goal just before halftime to cut that lead to 21-20. Only scoring in the third quarter was an Alvin Kamara 16-yard touchdown run with just 7 seconds left in the quarter. That made it 28-20. Then we talked about Taysom Hill throwing the bomb to Shaheed that was originally ruled an interception, then overturned. Then Hill ends up getting the touchdown run. That made it 35-20. The Drew Ogletree touchdown cuts it to 35-27. And Blake Grupe with his only field goal of the game with 24 seconds left for the final margin. 38-27. The Saints defeat the Colts and improve to 4-4. taking your comments and questions. You put them on the screen. Let's see. We had Kamara's receptions work better today. I think a lot of that is the Saints were not resigned to just dumping it off. The offensive line played a little bit better. Derek Carr did not resort to those checkdowns and dump offs quite as quickly. Pushed the ball downfield. Michael Thomas had a pretty good day, and just really, it's hard to find anything to complain about from this Saints offense outside of just a play here, a play there, the fumble, the dropped ball, those sorts of things. You're always going to have plays where somebody doesn't execute, and that's how it goes. But Alvin Kamara, 17 carries, 59 yards. He also had 4 catches for 51 and a touchdown. Michael Thomas, 4 catches for 68 yards. Chris Olave, despite the drop, he did have 5 catches for 46 yards on 9 targets. So still some work to do on that connection. Jamal Williams chipped in 30 yards on 6 carries. Pretty good yards per carry there. And the defense, look, the Colts had 371 yards, but a lot of that was in the first half. The Colts had only about 100 yards of offense over the last quarter and a half of this game, and you'll take that, especially with the offense humming like this. The defense really just needed to hold the Colts at bay. And elsewhere, by the way, Atlanta Falcons lose to Will Levis and the Tennessee Titans. Will Levis and the Titans get it done 28-23 in Nashville, defeating the Atlanta Falcons. And that means that as of this moment, your New Orleans Saints are tied for first place in the NFC South. So all the complaining, all the weeping and gnashing of teeth, and a lot of it rightful. Don't get me wrong. A lot of it was, this team was broken in a lot of ways and may still be. I mean, I don't think today means everything is fixed by any stretch of the imagination. But despite all of the complaining and all of the problems and all of the ups and downs this team has had, we're now just about halfway through the season, 8 games through a 17-game season. And the Saints are tied for first place with the Falcons. They're both 4-4. Tampa Bay Buccaneers 3-4. And they played on Thursday night, lost to the Bills. And then the Carolina Panthers, congrats to the Panthers, get their first win of the season. They are 1-6. A field goal as time expired by Eddie Pinheiro to defeat the Houston Texans 15-13 there in Charlotte. So it's a tight division. The Saints tied for first. They have 2 games with the Falcons in the second half of the year coming up the Sunday, after Thanksgiving. I think that's November the 26th. That's in Atlanta. And then the very last game of the year, which I've been saying for a while now, I think the division comes down to that game. Falcons at Saints at the Superdome, January the 7th. So that'll be a big one. Lots of football to be played before then, of course, starting next week with the Saints hosting the Chicago Bears. Then they're in Minnesota on November the 12th, and then the bye week before that trip to Atlanta. So exciting stuff for the Saints. Again, we'll talk more about it. I don't know that everything's fixed. I mean, there were still some issues today. The pass rush still wasn't fantastic. We let Gardner Minshew kind of run around a little bit too much, but all in all, you'll take it. An 11-point win on the road. I don't care who you're playing. You will take it in this league. So we'll be back. We'll continue to wrap this game up here on the Saints Insider Postgame Show, and we will get visits from Luke Johnson and Jeff Duncan fresh from the Saints locker room here on the Saints Insider Postgame Show, live from Indianapolis, right after this.
We are Tulane doctors. Physicians and scientists working side by side to advance academic medicine. We give our community access to the best possible medical remedies, developing state-of-the-art treatments to improve quality of life, address public health crises, and cure disease. All in passionate pursuit of our mission to provide inspired patient care for generations to come. Tulane Doctors. The future of medicine is here.
The Times-Picayune always gets it right. Jay's on top.
Not quite. It says here the Crusaders are the best.
I think you mean the Greenies, buddy.
These sports writers know what's up.
At least you're wearing the right colors, but we know why people read the paper. The one thing we can all agree on, we trust the Times-Picayune.
Subscribe today. Read it today. Trusted today. The Times-Picayune.
You're never gonna make the front page wearing that.
Welcome back to the Saints Insider Postgame Show, live from Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. New Orleans Saints 38, Indianapolis Colts 27, your final score. By far the highest scoring game this year for the Saints, and I'm pretty sure their second highest scoring game over the past 2 seasons. Maybe Zoe can check me on that. The only one I can think of that would be higher would be the home victory over the Seahawks last year, I believe was 39-32. Taking your comments and questions, of course. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know how we're doing. And we'll be back with the regular podcast feed on Wednesday. Have a question here saying, is this the Saints' best game so far? Offensively, absolutely yes. I'm trying to. The game in New England's it's just difficult. I think that was probably the Saints' most well-rounded performance was the victory at New England. It's just hard to gauge how much of that was the Patriots just being awful that day. So you grade that one on a curve. I still say maybe that was a better game, but I think it's super encouraging for this team they had some mistakes. The pass rush was not fantastic today. Secondary got beat a couple of times, and they still were able to hold the Colts down. And on offense, dropped the pass, had a fumble, all these things, and still put up 38 points, and could have easily scored more than 40 points. Had they needed to at the end, they could have punched that ball in. I did want to talk about that too. The Saints have figured something out in the red zone here, and we've talked about their struggles all year long, and it seems obvious. And I know fans have been saying it. We've been saying it. Luke said it on Friday's Saints Insider. Use Taysom Hill in the red zone. Use him in the red zone. And we're not talking about at the 1 yard line. Use him at the 5. Use him at the 12. Use him at the 20. He scored a 20-yard touchdown today. He can shrink that field for you and get you closer, especially, and this is where I need your help, especially in that formation the Saints are using where they have Taysom Hill at quarterback, 7 offensive linemen, and Colin Saunders in at fullback, big number 99 over from the defensive side of the ball. We need a name for that formation. You got 7 offensive linemen, 3 tight ends if you count Taysom Hill, and a defensive tackle at fullback. That's the formation. What do we call that? In the press box, we were toying around with like the beefy boy formation or the big beef formation, something. But I just saw on Twitter, Alvin Kamara was talking about how that's the Saints' answer to the Bush push or the tush push or the brotherly shove or whatever you call it that the Eagles are running with Jalen Hurts. Where they kind of get under center and push behind him with Jason Kelce doing such a tremendous job there. Well, the Saints don't have Jason Kelce, but they've got Taysom Hill, and they've got Colin Saunders, who's athletic enough and willing enough to get in there at fullback, and he's just like a bulldozer. Maybe it's the bulldozer formation, but teams are having a really, really difficult time stopping that. And quite frankly, if the Saints get a 1st and goal inside the 5-yard line, they should just run that play 4 times. You are not going to keep them from getting 5 yards by running that play 4 times. You're just not going to. I don't, because the nice thing about this compared to the brotherly shove is Taysom Hill has a second. He can kind of read where the holes are. Colin Saunders, he can follow him or he can duck to the outside. I mean, there's lots of options there. And if you only need a couple of yards there as a defense, it's extremely difficult to stop. Someone says, call it 7 and 7. Okay. With 7 offensive linemen and 7 for Taysom Hill. I get it. The Dumbo package. Okay. Play on Jumbo. Who's Dumbo though? Is that Taysom Hill or is that Colin Saunders? Yeah, but anyway, very effective and a weapon the Saints have found in the red zone. And I think, look, I'm going to say something controversial here. If you're going to get on Pete Carmichael for the lack of creativity when the Saints don't move the ball, and I know you have, and I know I have, and I know everybody has, we've got to give Pete Carmichael some credit for that formation. It has been very effective. It's not something you would necessarily think of. And I don't know, like you say, oh, well, you wait for the league to adjust. It is a little bit like the brotherly shove. How is the league going to adjust to that formation? And the Saints may have really found something. And if you now all of a sudden, if the league does adjust, Taysom Hill can throw the ball. Colin Saunders, just saying, is checked in as an eligible receiver on that play. Could Colin Saunders catch a touchdown pass before the season is out? I don't know. Just saying. Dumbo package because of the line of elephant-sized men blocking for Taysom. Okay, I'll buy that. That is a lot of beef. We're going to have to figure out exactly how much weight is in on that play. 3 tight ends, 7 offensive linemen, and Colin Saunders at fullback. I mean, just fantastic. At some point, Saunders got to carry the ball or he's got to catch a pass. We got to see a little trick play variation of that. But there's really no need to do that until somebody stops it, right? There's no need to do that until somebody stops it. Nobody stopped it today. Taysom Hill scored a touchdown on it in the fourth quarter, put the Saints up 35-20. They go on to win 38-27. They were also using it, by the way, at the end of the game when they were just running clock out. And that's another nice thing about it. It's going to be very difficult in a situation like Indianapolis found itself in down at the other end there. You know, could they force a fumble? Or that was the only thing they needed to do, that they could do to stay in this game, was to force a fumble. You're not even going to get through to Taysom Hill to force a fumble if Taysom knows that's what you're going to do, and there's 2,000 pounds of beef in front of him. He's just going to duck down and take a loss or whatever and keep the clock running. That's all he's got to do. So very effective formation. We're going to take a quick break. We do have Luke Johnson here, beat writer for the Times-Picayune, and right after this, we'll visit with him fresh from the Saints locker room.
We are Tulane doctors. Physicians and scientists working side by side to advance academic medicine. We give our community access to the best possible medical remedies, developing state-of-the-art treatments to improve quality of life, address public health crises, and cure disease. All in passionate pursuit of our mission to provide inspired patient care for generations to come. Tulane Doctors. The future of medicine is here.
The Times-Picayune always gets it right. Jay's on top.
Not quite. It says here the Crusaders are the best.
I think you mean the Greenies, buddy.
These sports writers know what's up.
At least you're wearing the right colors, but we know why people read the paper. The one thing we can all agree on, we trust the Times-Picayune.
Subscribe today. Read it today. Trust it today. The Times-Picayune.
You're never gonna make the front page wearing that.
Welcome back to Indianapolis, the Saints Insider Postgame Show. I'm Zach Ewing, joined now by Times-Picayune beat writer Luke Johnson. He's fresh from the Saints locker room. Before we get to that, though, Luke, we were talking about the Saints jumbo package there inside the 10. 7 offensive linemen, 3 tight ends if you count Taysom, and Colin Saunders. You asked on Twitter for some names for this thing. We got to come up with
this is why we do live TV, right? So you can just read the tweets. All right. So I think my personal favorite one so far is the second line. That's perfect for me.
That's awesome.
My good friend James Karst filled in "Calling Me Softly," which I love I love where he's going with that. I don't know if that's what I'm going to.
I enjoy a good dad joke.
Big Easy was good. There was Bink Easy, which is Colin Saunders' nickname is Bink. I thought that was pretty good. And Jumbo Yaya. I think that's another really good one. So I love y'all's creativity. I hate that y'all are more creative than me, but sometimes it's just the way it goes.
Yeah. Maybe next time we can do like a mean tweet segment with you, or we need to do that with Jeff.
No, please don't do mean tweets.
We need to do mean tweets with Jeff.
I get enough of them already. One time is enough.
Yeah,
to do that.
you don't want to read
them off.
Will Colin Saunders get a touch out of that formation?
He better. I mean, look, it's fun to talk about after they win, right? Because you can. But they got to keep winning for him to start getting touches and us to think about how fun that would be.
Maybe fourth quarter you got a 2-score lead. You're going in for a 3-score lead.
Then get big number 99 the ball. He wants it though. He wants it. I can tell you that. And I think a lot of people want it for him. We'll see.
Well, let's talk about that. Saints locker room probably in a much better mood today. 511 yards of offense. They've been telling us that this is what they are capable of, and they finally showed it today.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is what we all thought they were capable of coming into this season, right? I mean, they've got all the guys, and you see it all today. Derek Carr was excellent today. Easily his best game as a Saint. Taysom Hill was awesome today. He had a 44-yard completion. He had, I think, 51 yards in the ground. He added a 14-yard catch. He was great today. Rashid Shaheed averaging 51 yards a catch. Alvin Kamara scoring 2 touchdowns. I mean, this is what when you're talking about this offense, I didn't even mention Mike Thomas, who was sick and caught a couple big balls. He had a big conversion on 3rd down. He had I think a 31-yard catch in this game. So they had all their playmakers making plays for them. And this is what we've been waiting for all season. It's why it was so frustrating watching this team. It's just like, why isn't it working?
Yeah. And we stood behind this camera 3 weeks ago in Foxborough talking about how the Saints had fixed things and this is what they were capable of. And then they go and lose 2 more frustrating games. So we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Is that sort of the attitude from the team too? Is like, okay, we did it once. Now we need to go do it again and again.
Yeah, I think so. I think they've already gone through it this year, like you just said, where it looked like they'd kind of solved their problems. And then it's a week-to-week league. Absolutely. They have to figure out how to do this consistently. But I think some of the things that were really encouraging were the way they used some of these players. I think we didn't see them going in the no huddle, which we were kind of looking for that maybe as an option this week. But I mean, they didn't need it. They looked like they were on the attack and they were trusting their guys to go make plays. You saw it 3rd and 13, game on the line. They're throwing the ball deep to Shaheed, which is something they've done before this year. But I mean, it's nice to see them be like, yes, we have good players. Let's go let them win the game for us.
Yeah. And I thought Derek Carr's best game of the year today as well.
Hands down. Not even close. I mean, I know he had the 1 turnover. He had the sack where he fumbled the ball, but really, he had 320 yards. He had like 130 passer rating, a couple touchdowns. He looked good.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I just thought he looked comfortable in the pocket. The offense is moving in rhythm. The tempo was really, really good today from that offense. I think, frankly, I think the offensive line helped them out, not only with the pass blocking, but they were opening some lanes for these running backs. Probably their best day of the season running the football. Maybe not from a yardage total, but they were, at one point they were averaging about 5 yards a pop carrying the ball, which is it's something we haven't seen out of the Saints team this year.
Yeah, and this Colts defense has its problem. I mean, this is not the best defense in the league by any stretch of the imagination, but it's still good. You go up against a bad defense and you punish it. That's what the Saints did. Yeah. On the other side of the ball, defensively, a little bit of a concern starting to materialize as a trend, these slow starts for the defense, and we saw one again today.
Yeah, it's 3 straight weeks they've given up at least 17 points in the first half, which is they were talking about it this week. There was like a focus for them where they're like, we got to get off to a faster start, and, especially to kind of help this offense along. And one of those obviously was a short field, a Derek Carr fumble. They only had I think a 30-yard field, but that's still they didn't play up to their capability today. I think that's a fair assessment. Colts are a very good rushing attack, but they were ripping off huge chunks. I think they had 2 40-plus yard runs today. Jonathan Taylor had a season high by a Saints opponent in rushing before the first quarter was even over. So it was. There's a lot of stuff to build on from a defensive performance, and yet, I think they found it again in the second half. They played a lot better in the second half. They only had the 1 touchdown drive that they gave up. They forced an interception. They were kind of getting after Minshew a little bit there in the second half. They shut down the run game, so it was enough to get a win. That's really all that matters. And and week to week in the NFL,
you don't apologize for wins in this league, especially not double-digit wins on the road in this league. So now they go face the Bears. The Falcons lost today in Tennessee. After all of this, we're mentioning this earlier, after all of this sort of complaining and problem solving and talking about resetting and backs against the wall and all of this, the Saints are halfway through the year essentially now tied for first place. That's one benefit of the week schedule is that you do in a weak division is that you do have a chance to get things together, but it's all still in front of this team.
But it has been. Now we just got to see if this team can actually put together a consistent performance from week to week. Yeah, they're trying to get their second 2-game winning streak of the year. It's week 9 coming up. It's they've got to start doing it consistently before we can be like, okay, it's right there in front of them. So it was right there in front of them last year too, and it just like kind of choked away a 16-point lead in Tampa, and that was kind of that. So if this team is as good as they showed today, offensively, if they can keep playing a little bit better defensively, then I think I'll feel good about where they're at. But again, something we keep saying over and over on this on these shows this year. They've got to put it together, and they got to show they can do it before we can really be confident. Indiana borders Missouri. That's the show me state. Saints showed us today. We'll see if they can continue to show us. He's Luke Johnson, the beat writer for the Times-Picayune and NOLA.com. We're going to take one more quick break. We'll be back with Jeff Duncan and wrap up the Saints Insider postgame show live from Indianapolis right after this.
We are Tulane doctors. Physicians and scientists working side by side to advance academic medicine. We give our community access to the best possible medical remedies, developing state-of-the-art treatments to improve quality of life, address public health crises, and cure disease. All in passionate pursuit of our mission to provide inspired patient care for generations to come. Tulane doctors. The future of medicine is here.
Welcome back to Lucas Oil Stadium live in Indianapolis. I'm Zach Ewing, now joined by Jeff Duncan, Times-Picayune, NOLA.com columnist. Jeff, Saints win today 38-27, and for one day at least, this offense looked like it was one of the top offenses in the league.
Yeah, and it helps to play the Indianapolis Colts, right? I mean, put things into context a little bit here. This was a good get-right opponent for them, a team that struggled defensively all year long, and the Saints needed a game like this, I think, to kind of bolster their confidence and really validate some of the work they're doing behind the scenes to try and get back on track offensively. And sometimes you get a game like this, Zach, and it can kind of build on itself. And I think that's what the Saints players we talked to in the locker room or afterward were saying is like, this is a good step in the right direction. Now let's see if they can sustain it.
Yeah, and it's 3 straight games with at least 400 yards, 3 straight games with 300 yards passing for Derek Carr. But today what we saw was the key plays, the big third downs, the red zone plays. They executed on that. And I think Derek Carr had a great game. Taysom Hill deserved a lot of credit for that too.
Yeah, well, I think one point I see he had like 55 yards rushing, 44 yards passing, caught a pass for 14 yards. Just a remarkable all-around game for him. And in the red zone, the Saints might have found something here. Leaning on him in that package at quarterback kind of opens things up in the offense. And you mentioned it earlier. I mean, really the biggest problem for this offense has been all the key situations, right? Third down, red zone, goal line. And today they executed. Again, it was against a Colts defense that's been giving up a lot of points and yards to everybody. But sometimes that's what you need just to kind of get the confidence. And I thought it was a big game for Derek Carr. It was his best game by far as a Saint. We know he's had a tough week. I mean, he did a lot of extra meeting work with his receivers, with the offensive coaches to try and align themselves with what is going on offensively. And look, it paid off today. It came to fruition. He talked about the emotions he played with today. We saw him on the field, like really showing a lot of emotions. For a starting quarterback in the NFL, you don't see that very often. But I think that spoke to just how big this game was for him and for this offense to kind of get right.
And I thought more positive emotions than he's been showing too. And obviously a lot of good things happened, but you didn't see the screaming at guys. You didn't see the kind of getting down and acting frustrated. I will say, Dunk, Saints had this 10-day break. We all talked about it as a reset. They were 3-4, backs against the wall. They were saying all of this kind of stuff. Do or die. This is now or never. And so they were able to come up with this performance today. But first of all, there was a moment in the second quarter, they're down 17-7. And it didn't last long. They came right down and scored 2 touchdowns their next 2 possessions. But in that moment, I mean, I really thought to myself, like, boy, this is a season on the brink maybe here.
Yeah, look, 3 straight weeks they've been down double digits in the first half. And we talked on our podcast this week about how important it was for the team to start fast because there could be a crisis of confidence. And they got down, and there was no crisis of confidence. So I think that speaks well to the team, the leadership of the team, that they didn't panic, that they just went out and started executing. They answered very quickly after they got down 10 points, quickly put in a touchdown. And I think they felt confident that they could move the ball on this Colts defense. They had a really good plan. I thought Pete Carmichael had a great day as a play caller. I mean, they really mixed things up. They balanced the offense out with the running game. hit for those big explosive plays to Rashid Shaheed. That's the formula for this offense going forward. Now, whether they can execute it as well as they did today against other defenses, we'll find out.
Yeah, and then the other part of this equation is, okay, the 10-day break, all the conversations, all the not panic, but just the sense of urgency.
Mm-hmm.
It helped the Saints this week. It can't take that to get this kind of a game. I mean, they have to start putting them together now.
Yeah, but I think when you have success like you do today, it's easier to go for it. I mean, you have more confidence in what you're being coached, more confidence in your quarterback. All those things start building off each other, where if you don't have any, demonstrated success, it's hard to have confidence in what you're doing. So that's why a day like today is so important, I think. We know the talent is here. We know their ability is here. I mean, these guys have proven it over the years, but they haven't proven it together. And Derek Carr talked about it afterward. He needed a day like this, I think, for his new teammates, because he hasn't had a day like that. Yeah, he had him with the Raiders, but not here in New Orleans with this group of offensive playmakers. So I think it was big for him more than anything else, after having all these meetings that he initiated with a lot of the offensive playmakers with Pete Carmichael. He needed to show this group that he could do it. They know Drew Brees can do it for him. They needed to see Derek Carr do it.
Yeah, and it wasn't perfect. The offensive line collapsed on him on the play where he ends up fumbling. Chris Olave dropped a pass that should have been Carr's third touchdown of the day. I mean, there are still some things to work on here, but when you're talking about, hey, there were some missed opportunities out there, and yet the Saints still had 500 yards of offense and 38 points, that's a good day.
Yeah, and look, we haven't talked much at all about the defense, but I thought the defense was critical today, because once they really made those adjustments and stopping the run, they really shut down Minshew and the offense, and it allowed the Saints offense to get on track and really get rolling. I never felt like once they got the lead, they were going to lose, because the defense had kind of got a beat on things.
Yeah.
And look, we're talking about going forward. We may talk about that in a second here, but here you go. You got Chicago coming to New Orleans next week with potentially a backup quarterback. Kirk Cousins blew his Achilles out today. They get Minnesota in 2 weeks with a backup quarterback. So this could be 3 weeks in a row where they're playing a wounded team with their backup quarterback. Things finally starting to kind of go the Saints' way. They got a big reversal by the officials today. So I guess the message from Roger Goodell against the New Orleans Saints, it got lost in the mail.
Well, he wasn't available at that time for the officials to call.
Yeah, that's what it must have been.
Just buy into the conspiracy theory. Paulson Adebo, a big interception, speaking of the defense. In a moment when the Colts were trying to get back in the game and it looked like they might, he comes up with a big pick. So it all comes out well for the Saints. And really, you mentioned this, the headlines around the league. I mean, look, Minnesota's backup quarterback. We don't know yet if Justin Fields will be back for the Bears. We'll see how that goes. But that's next. And then after the bye week is the Falcons, who have their own crisis. They lost again today to the Tennessee Titans. Will Levis throws 4 touchdowns against them, and they benched Desmond Ridder. So now we don't know if it'll be Desmond Ridder or Taylor Heineke for the rest of the season. So you're looking at a stretch now where the Saints, again, on paper, can they do it? They should be favored here several weeks in a row.
Yeah, suddenly Derek Carr doesn't look so bad, right? I mean, when you're going against the Tyson Bagents of the world. But look, I think the Saints found some success today, and I think that was critical. Now they need to build on it and sustain it. That's been elusive for this team. I mean, we got to remember, this team started 2-0, but offensively they were struggling. I think they're starting to kind of improve in a lot of different areas, and they're fairly healthy. I mean, I think they came out of today fairly healthy. And, Dennis Allen talked about this bug that's been going around. A lot of guys playing sick, a lot of guys playing probably less than 100%. That shows you that this team's still sticking together despite the adversity. That's a really positive sign.
Well, we will always give you 100% on the Saints Insider postgame show, brought to you by Tulane Doctors. I'm Zach Ewing with Jeff Duncan. Luke Johnson was on earlier, and our thanks to Zoe Collins-Rath, who is our producer for this show. Saints 38, Colts 27, our final score. Thank you so much for joining us. Subscribe to the Saints on NOLA.com YouTube channel, and we will see you Wednesday for the next full episode of the Saints Insider. Talk about this win and start to look forward to the game next Sunday at the Dome against the Chicago Bears. Until then, thanks for watching, everybody.